got some old school. Some old school. Some old school shit. Yeah, I got this.
Oh,
shit.
I want to bring you back here. Like, you're calling this project Nostalgianoid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is nostalgia? Like, how does that play into your music? Like, we've talked about, like, where you come from, your upbringing, like, your past. We basically have, like, gone through a timeline of, like,
we're being pretty fucking nostalgic, and that's kind of the whole point of it.
Okay.
Is like
in an oral perspective, or like more of like what you're trying to like just put out, like
it's oral, it's historical. It's just like in general, I have, and I got this from my father, I feel like, but I think everybody has this in general. I have a really bad problem with looking back at the past. I romanticize the past. I love the past. I look at different time periods and I'm like, wow, what growth or what creative ingenuity was occurring here. And it like,
you mean like musically you love the past?
It could be musically. I'm not saying like it can be in different ways, but like especially musically, especially in this sense when we're talking about music and we're talking about Nostalgianoid, but just like this, like I'm always looking back, and especially with the music that I was making, and before I ever had this idea of calling it Nostalgianoid, and I was just going by Mike Holmes or whatever else monikers I've created in my lifetime.
You stuck
for
with this
shit.
for a long time, though. I mean, as often as your Instagram handle changes, you've stuck with Nostalgianoid in the music.
Yeah, and I didn't really want to stick with it. It just kind of stuck. It like stuck really well because I was at first it stuck, but then it was like every fucking venue was spelling it wrong, and I was like, dude, what the fuck? Yeah. I'm like, I don't think this is even gonna work because no one can even spell
I've spelled
the
it
fucking
wrong.
It's fucking weird. It's fucking weird. Nostalgia's a
weird
word. Nostalgia's a weird word in itself, and Nostalgianoid is like a whole nother thing.
It's kind of. I mean, it's a neologism. Like you invented that word, Nostalgianoid.
Well, it's like it's supposed to mean like the whole thing of the music is like it's like the music is kind of like this like noid is the suffix in Latin for something that is like human, like a human, like an android or whatever the fuck.
Right.
So or mongoloid, blah 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 blah. You can get into all of those. So Nostalgianoid is like it's a something that is like a human that just keeps looking back in the past, like this fucking automaton. It's like this thing, like I really like. I think I daydream a lot, and it's like it has to do with that type of shit where I daydream about like, and so a lot of times where I'm trying to get to with my music emotionally is to certain places and time, or that's why I love to go back and listen to old music of mine or old music in general, because it takes you back to a time.
Right, because your sample base tonight was from, you said like 2012? Or?
This is those three tracks are from like 2018, and I produced those probably in the summer of 2018.
Okay.
So,
right, but like this going back in time, like loving to revisit that.
You know, like just being able to revisit, just taking something from a piece of time and putting it somewhere else. And like, especially like, I've had a lot of like, I don't know if it's necessarily flack, but I've always felt pressure or felt anxiety or like there are shortcomings to what I do as far as my electronic stuff because there's so much sample-based stuff and because I've had so much problems with copyright infringement with it with different sites.
That's a whole nother podcast.
And that's a whole nother thing. Had trouble with that throughout the years. That you know, sampling has always been looked down upon by the greater music community. That's why hip hop has been looked down upon because they're like, well, they're just taking our music. Bitch, you just fucking took black music the whole time and called it rock and roll.
Yep.
Like when it comes to American music in general, no one can ever say that shit about hip hop.
Right. Well, no one can say that about American music. I mean, it is.
Yeah,
it is
like
black
it's all
music.
it's all like a regurgitation of something that was once very pure, and now has been very commodified and. Is just redundant as fuck. But like, so it's really cool to like, I think it's really, for me, it's always been about paying homage. It's never been about this thing of like, I'm taking this sample and I'm like taking it from that person completely.
Right.
It's never been this thing of like I've like this is what I did.
Right.
It's like no, like when people are like, yo, that track is fire. I'm like, yeah, man, that guitar is sick, right? That's like a Mahavishnu Orchestra track. They're
Yeah,
like, who's
yeah.
Mahavishnu Orchestra? I'm like, dope. I can tell you about something. Like
Right.
all it has been for me
It's
is
all
like
about, like,
always teaching people about
educating.
other music.
Yeah.
And like broadening their horizons, because people really close up and are very close-minded about music. And you can be
Easy to get in a hole for sure.
super easy to get. I'm in my own box. We're all in our own boxes.
well,
You know what I
totally.
mean? Like, and
Yeah.
so it's like it's.
I think that you break boxes though, like with what you're doing. You know, like
I try to, but I definitely know that there are formulas that I take and that I have that are tried and true for me. That it's like, as much as I'll get out of the box of something, it's like there is a sound for me that I'm really good at. So sometimes it's just better to take that route instead of like, oh, let's just go fucking completely left of center. But that's the thing is like I've been going left of center for a fucking while, so it's like
Yeah.
there's no ground not to like take. I feel like now it's kind of like the last couple of years it's been really dope, and I've been really fucking fortunate to have like the support I've had where people are like, yeah, we want you to play these shows, we want you to do this noise fest, we want you to do this shit, where it's like I literally feel like I'm just like jacking off. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like it's like the
It's
music that I'm
cathartic, huh?
putting into this is like what I'm making is like I don't really know if it has like much of a purpose or if it's like good or if
Yeah.
it's like what's the word? Like not cacophonous, but if it's a euphonous in any
Okay.
way, like but like it for some reason some people fucking enjoy it, and that's fucking dope to me. And
Yeah.
so like it's just about like trying to like I'm really big on like it's like as much as I can find a box, it's really dope to like take that box and like flip it inside out and then tear it apart and then see if you can like recreate it out of like all the snippets that you cut. So like that's where a lot of the music goes. That's where like a lot of my mantra is just like and same like and especially with sampling is like, you know, just trying to explore and take and put things that are in a certain context and put them in another context, because that's usually the most beautiful music in the world is when that happens, because that's American music. I mean,
True. Yeah. Oh shit! I got it.
Did you get that?
Yep.
Yeah, good. You get that.
I think so.